So in the last video on the MTG seal, we took a look at the Nissa Planeswalker deck for Hour of Devastation, and in this video we are going to take a look at the Nicol Bolas Planeswalker deck. Once again, the pamphlet I'll show off first. Just some info on Nicol Bolas himself, some of the items they're selling and have available. And on this side they discuss more information, some tips for playing the deck. And then, of course, down in this corner we have the deck list itself. First of all, foremost, we'll highlight the Planeswalker card itself. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in now because we'll do that when we look at the cards as well. So we have the foil Planeswalker Nicol Bolas the Deceiver. Unfortunately, like many of the other ones in the Planeswalker decks, this is not made to see actual constructed play. It's still a very cool card, and I think that Nicol Bolas and Grixis has a lot of fun play mechanics to it, and a lot of good options that you can tailor a deck around. And for this Nicol Bolas card, he's 8 mana, 5, plus those of you who don't know, Grixis colors are blue, black, and red, as seen here. So if you ever hear Grixis, that's what they're talking about as far as the deck goes. He's a 5 loyalty Planeswalker with a +3, a -3, and a -11. The +3 is like the Torment cards that you're going to see in Hour of Devastation. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. His -3 is to destroy a target creature and draw a card. And his -11 is that it deals 7 damage to each opponent, you draw 7 cards. I don't see people taking this up to the 11. You're going to want to alternate between destroying a creature and then forcing your opponent to make the decision of losing life or getting rid of cards or permanents. Also, he gets a box with some pretty cool art on it. It's the same as what's pictured in the little pamphlet, and it's just like the other boxes have been. Alright, so yeah, next up we'll go through the cards in the deck. It's going to be pretty much the same as before. We'll just go through some, talk about some, and I'll try to go slow enough for you guys to see those that I don't discuss. Our first card is a rare. It's the Alma Eternal. I pulled this in a booster pack from the Nissa Planeswalker deck, but I didn't really go over it because I was going to in this video. It's a 3 mana cost for a 5/5. It has a Afflict 3, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter onto Alma Eternal, but whenever it deals damage to a player, remove all -1/-1 counters on it. So you should be able to remove all counters from it each game because the Afflict... Well, I guess the Afflict won't technically come from damage from this, so I could be wrong on that. Yeah, it's going to have to be damage from this card itself and not the Afflict. I don't know. If you guys know the ruling for sure, let me know, but I believe that the damage is going to have to come from the Eternal and not the Afflict. Throne of the God, Pharaoh. This is one from Amonkhet. I guess both of these decks have one from Hour of Devastation, one from Amonkhet. This card hasn't seen a lot of play, I know, but I think there's a lot of potential to it. If you have kind of like an army style where you got a lot of small creatures out, this will definitely help you close games, because even if they get blocked, your opponent's still going to have damage done to them. And now we get our 2 tutor cards. Visage of Bolas, 4 mana cost, and you can tap it to add any one of the Grixis colors, and you also, when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Nicol Bolas the Deceiver, reveal it, put it in your hand, and search. Oh, if you search your library, shuffle it. So this one only tutors the Planeswalker, not anything else, but it stays on the battlefield and you get mana, so it's going to help with your ramp and help with any mana fixing. Because this is actually, I believe, the first 3 mana Planeswalker deck they've put out. I could be wrong on that, I may be misremembering. So we'll go through the other cards now. Got the common Kenner Eternal. An uncommon, this one is actually one that's just for the Planeswalker deck. Well, made for the Planeswalker deck, I should say, because it's over the 199 set number. It's a 2 mana for a 2/1 with flying. Whenever you cast a Bolas Planeswalker spell, you may sacrifice Wasp of the Bitter End, and if you do, destroy target creature. This actually isn't a bad card because it's a 2/1 flyer for 2 mana, and I don't think that black has a lot of those at that cost without any sort of drawback to it. Here's an uncommon that's in the Hour of Devastation set. Burning Fist Minotaur, 2 mana for 2/1 with first strike. You can pay 2 mana to discard a card to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. Aerial Guide, I believe that one was in the Nissa Planeswalker deck I went through. Eternal of Harsh Truths, I like this card a lot. It's 3 mana for 1/3, but it has a flick 2, and if it isn't blocked when it attacks, you get to draw a card. So there's some potential to that. We'll see if we can get any play out of it in this Planeswalker deck to see how well it stands up. Here's another Planeswalker deck card, Zealot of the God Pharaoh, 4 mana for a 4/3. You can pay 5 mana for it to do 2 damage to target opponent. What's nice about that ability is that you don't have to tap this creature, which you see a lot in that ability on other cards. Manticore Eternal, 5 mana for a 5/4 with a flick 3, and it has to attack each combat. This is a pretty brutish card. I mean, your opponent knows every turn it's coming at it, so they're either taking 5 or 3 damage until they can remove this card. Now that's kind of interesting to me. We'll see how they do with lands, because it's a 3 mana cost, or 3 mana color deck, and alright, this is what they include. Cinder Barons is the red-black, which it looks like are the colors it's focused. Yeah, according to our pamphlet here, there's 1, 2, 3 cards that require a single island for each. But we have Crypt of the Eternals, which is in Hour of Devastation. 4 copies of this. You get a life when it enters the battlefield. What's interesting is that this doesn't tap when it enters the battlefield. You can tap it for a colorless mana, or you can pay 1 mana and tap it for the color that you need. So there's some more mana fixing for this deck. And those of you who don't know mana fixing, you saw it in mostly like green creatures where it says tap to add a mana color of your choice, so that fixes your mana, basically. It gives you the mana you need if you don't have the land on the battlefield. A couple of commons going through here. Open Fire, it's not bad. I just wish it were 2 mana. It'd be great if it was like Lightning Bolt, 1 mana, but I think 2 mana would be a little bit more competitive for this card. And then 3 copies of Final Reward, which it's a high mana cost, but it's great for what you need, just exile target creature. Alright, so we have our 2 booster packs we'll go through. One of them has Nicol Bolas right on top, so maybe it's going to be good luck for us. Another copy of Open Fire. So this one will have a little bit more option with our booster pack draws because we have 3 mana colors in this deck. This will probably go in to replace maybe just like a basic land. Cycling has been very helpful, I think, from the play that I've done. So our first uncommon, Magmaroth, 4 mana for 5/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on Magmaroth, and whenever you cast non-creature spell, remove a -1/-1 counter. So it kind of goes with the Eternal, with having -1 counters put on it. Eternal of the Harsh Truths, we already saw that in the deck. Obelisk Spider, 3 mana for 1/4 with reach. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. And whenever negative counters put on a creature, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. That's pretty cool. I could see it, I guess. I don't think there's enough cards for like a negative counter deck, but it's possible. And I mean, in Standard, you could see it now with Apatra from Amonkhet, with Archfiend of Ifnir. There's some possibilities. Imminent Doom. This is it's a cool card, but I think it's a deceiving card, because you can plan to be able to use it most turns, but you're casting it on turn 3, and then you gotta hope that you've got the right order. For those of you who don't know, when it enters the battlefield, you put a Doom counter on it. Whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost equal to the number of Doom counters on Imminent Doom deals that much damage to target creature or player, then you put a Doom counter on Imminent Doom. So you ramp up from 1, 2, 3, 4 and onward with your mana, converted mana costs of your spells, and it can definitely be awesome. I didn't see it played during pre-release, and at first I loved it, and then I got to thinking about it a little bit more, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I may add it to this deck just to see how well it does. There's a few converted mana cost of 1 in this deck, so I don't know, we'll see. We have the Ipnu Rivulet. We saw this with the Nissa Planeswalker deck, so I won't go into it. Doomfall. I like this card, but I just wish that it was that you could choose the first option. It says target opponent exiles a creature he or she controls. So he or she gets to make the choice, and if they only have one creature out there, you know which one's going, but if they have multiple ones, that it's going to be their worst one, obviously. And then your second option is to have your opponent reveal his or her hand, and you choose a non-land card from it to exile that card. Exiling is definitely better than discarding or destroying because they're not going to the graveyard. And with all the Eternalize and things like that going on, exiling is just a better option. Ominous Sphinx, 5 mana for 4/4 flying. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0 until the end of turn. And we got Hour of Glory, 4 mana, exile target creature. If that creature was a god, its controller reveals his or her hand and exiles all the cards from it with the same name as that creature. And we have our land token. Alright, so we'll get these decks sleeved up, and then we'll have Nissa face off against Nicol Bolas.